Conversations with Selwyn. Share the issues we live with. Wanna know what you're feeling? Can you tell me what you think? Maybe we can talk it out.
Hi, and welcome to everybody who's tuned in to today's show. This is Conversations with Selwyn, and I'm really excited to have with me as my special guest, Pastor Heston Williams from Purpose Life Church in Brooklyn, New York. How you doing this morning, Pastor?
I'm doing great, Sel. I'm doing really awesome, and so glad to connect with all of you all today. This is going to be an exciting conversation, I believe. So I'm really honored and humbled and excited to be here with you, by the way.
Oh, man, we're honored that you would even do this. This is awesome. Can you tell us a little bit about your journey as a pastor, and also tell us about your church?
Okay. Wow. Well, let's put it this way. I've grown up in church my entire life. I mean, this has been my story, my journey. I haven't known really a time where church and God was an important part of who I was. My dad and mom, they were pastors, and they were pastoring from England, actually, and came over here in 1982, and they settled here, right here in Brooklyn, New York. And I was always involved, always eager, always engaged, doing many different things in church. And I kind of always knew that there was something more. There was a special calling. And for those that have people in the ministry, there are times in your life where you try to actually run from that calling.
Oh, yeah.
Where you just say, I don't really know if I want to do this. But I just knew that there was something in me. And now, was it pastoring? Was it music? Because I was involved in music. I was involved in youth ministry.
That's
in
right.
a number
You're a
of different
musician.
areas. Yeah. And I think that there are certain things that we do for periods of our life, and God shifts it and say, okay, well, that was great. That was purposeful. And it literally, your purpose shifts. Yeah. So there are some giftings that we have that are for a specific time, a specific era. Doesn't mean that you won't still be talented or interested, but God needs to move you to a different place. Yeah. And for me, pastoring was that call. It was that shift. And it's an interesting, how did I know exactly that pastoring was what God wanted me to do? I'm going to go a little further back in my life's history. I was about 10 or 11 years old. I'm coming, I don't know where I was coming from, but I passed by this fire station. And the doors were open, and I looked inside, and I saw the fire truck. I saw the firemen. Mm-hmm. And so, if you asked me at that age, Heston, what do you want to be? What do you want to do?
Right.
I would have said, listen, I want to be a fireman.
Yeah.
It's exciting and so forth. And the most thrilling part of that was sliding down the pole. So, right. To a 10, 11-year-old kid, that was exciting, and that's what I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. And I feel like God sometimes just deposits these inklings, these dreams, and these thoughts. And so, for the next number of years, someone asked me, so what are you going to be when you get older? Okay, right. I'm going to be a fireman. Now, fast forward, I'm now 22, and I'm going through one of those self-assessment periods. Where am I? Am I fulfilling my call? I never needed a pastor or a psychologist or even someone else to say, ask yourself these questions. I was always going through this process of, okay, am I doing what I'm supposed to be doing? And this was kind of a little bit of a tough time because I felt like the answer was no.
Right.
Because I'm 22, and then I'm thinking I'm nowhere close to becoming a fireman. And so I'm completely miserable for that period of time, and I get into this shouting match with God. Now, I wasn't angry, but I was a little bit annoyed because I felt like, God, you gave me this desire.
Yeah.
I don't believe I just came upon it myself. I believe that you imprinted it inside of me. And so I had one of those conversations with God where you're speaking to him, and it's not that he's answering audibly, but you really can feel his responses.
Yes.
And so I'm like, God, what's up? I'm 22. I wanted to become a fireman. I feel that's what you planted inside of me, and I'm nowhere closer to that dream than when I was 10 years old. And so God responds. And first of all, that surprised me that he responded.
Right.
And he responded. It was like, well, Heston, why'd you want to become a fireman?
Wow.
I went back into my adolescent mind and I kind of gave that half smirk smile, like, well, God, man, the pole, man.
Yeah.
Being able to slide down the pole.
Yes.
And of course, that's kind of silly for a 22-year-old to be talking that way, but that's what I was thinking. And that's what it brought me back. And God was like, no, seriously, why'd you want to become a fireman? And I took one of those dramatic pauses when that question is asked that really causes you to look introspectively and really think. And after that pause, I kind of said, well, I guess, a fireman goes into people's lives when everything's falling apart.
Right.
And he gets to pull them out of safety.
Yeah.
And no kidding, no lie.
Wow.
I literally heard the voice of God say, and that's why I want you to become a pastor.
Wow.
I just tingled when I said that because it and it didn't happen right away.
Yeah.
So revelation doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to arrive at your destination at that same moment. Oftentimes when God gives us revelation, it's just a pointer.
Yeah.
So that you can at least go in the right direction.
That's great.
And so I was serving here at Purpose Life Church. At the time, it was called Flatlands Church of God. As a youth pastor, became the assistant pastor, and I know that God was talking to my dad as well, because I felt like I had a heart for this community and the people here. And it was in the end of 2013, where my parents said, you know what? We've done what we've done. They kind of used the whole Moses analogy, I've taken you to the edge of the promised land.
Yeah.
Now you've got to do the rest.
Yeah.
And I knew from in my early 20s that this was ultimately where God was taking me. And I stopped running. I stopped trying to convince myself out of it. I stopped even trying to evaluate my worth and to say, am I smart enough? Am I worthy enough? Do I know the Bible enough?
Yeah.
Because I really, at that point, surrendered. Well, God, if that's what you said, then I trust you enough to believe it. I'm crazy enough to believe
That's powerful.
that someone as seemingly unqualified as me that you would call for this task.
Wow.
So that's kind of my journey pastoring, and we've been here rocking it at PLC since the end of 2013, and I think a lot of this gray hair is probably connected to pastoring. There are some things that they don't tell you about what is involved, but I gotta say this is the day that I stopped loving it is the day before I quit. This is not a career choice for me. This is something that God has spoken to my heart, and I'm honored, my wife and I and my children, to be serving this community in Brooklyn, and we have the opportunity to really serve the globe.
Wow.
So
that's an amazing story, and I felt every word of it, especially where God told you, okay, this is what I want you to do. This is why I want you to save lives. I think that's powerful. I love what you're doing with your ministry. I love your approach. For those of you who don't know, Pastor Hess is an out-of-the-box type of a guy, very into the visual arts, audio visual, all of that stuff. And I love what he's introduced to his church. And lately, you've been doing a series on teaching with your church on a topic called reset. And that really caught my attention because I feel like so many of us go throughout our year, either individually or as a church or collectively as a year, and we're just plowing through event after event and this and that after the other, and
somebody
week after
say
week.
amen.
Yeah. And it's a lot.
Yeah.
It's a lot. You get to the end of the year and you're just not wanting to do it again the next year, So can you tell us a little bit about what reset is all about?
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you the why. And it's funny because my wife was praying for God to speak to me,
Oh, yeah. Praying woman.
And I'm going to give you some advice, especially those that are married. Sometimes your spouse if they want you to change or do something differently, it's actually better for you to ask God to speak to them than to you to speak to them. Because it comes across a lot better that way. Just so you know. All right, just so you know. But
real talk.
But getting back to your question, it really was the end of July, beginning of August, and as a church, pastoring, one of the things that we consider to be success is married to numbers.
Yeah.
Numbers equals events and activities. So not just salvations, but number of special services, number of this and so forth. And, and so there is this desire to fulfill this. We're chasing a hare that God has never put there.
Oh, wow.
And so we're running after this, this image of not what I believe God has intended for his people. And it was one particular Sunday, I was looking at especially our leaders. Mm-hmm. And there was my instant response was, man, they're not doing what they're supposed to. Mm-hmm. I'm going to get into them. And trust me, I'm not a rough guy, but, I was feeling like, man, their attendance is slacking a little bit. They're not pulling their weight. I don't see anything going on. And I just believe that I got pulled aside and pinched a little bit. I have a Caribbean parent, so pinching especially in church, was something commonplace. Oh yeah. When they didn't want to take you outside, they just gave you a little pinch. Wow. But the Holy Spirit just kind of gave me a pinch, and he opened my eyes to something. He said, folks, they're just tired. Yeah. And I started to do some studies. I started to, I got brought back to the book of Genesis, and chapter 2, verse 2, where it says that God, he pretty much rested from all of his work. Yeah. And he just sat back and he said, well, this is good. Yeah. He sat back and enjoyed what he's done, what he's created. And it wasn't constant. And here we're talking about the God of the universe, who's omnipotent, who's omnipresent, who's never tired, that was modeling for us that we need to take not just once in your lifetime, not just when you retire, not just when you stop working after 30 years, but he wants us to take these moments where we rest and we reflect and we just say, God is good. Yeah. And after getting that lashing, if you want to say, I did one of the hardest things I've had to do in ministry. And for those that know me, it's canceling. For me, I mean, some of you folks may have some other things that are really hard to do. Right. For me, is canceling something that you've planned and put forth. Wow. I mean, and let me go a little further. I mean, this August is our community outreach. That's when we're doing our block party. Mm-hmm. We have a whole calendar of events. We already distributed to the community. Yeah. And so, here I am saying, but God, we're doing this for you and so forth. And so let's keep on doing it. And God just spoke and said, rest. That we needed to rest and go through this period of reset. And so we canceled everything for the month of our community block party. Wow, you shut it all down. Our weekly, midweek services. No, there was no meetings, no staff meetings. I made sure I said, everyone rest. Yeah. Nothing extra. I mean, of course, I believe Sunday morning is important and we continue to do that. Oh, yeah. But besides that, everything, bus ride, no. Everything was on rest. And we just took the time to reset. Mm-hmm. And the series was so beneficial when we actually did the series Reset in September, which was really a byproduct of resting. Yeah. And I think that's what happens. Okay. That when you take time to rest, vision has an opportunity to reset. Wow. You get a chance to recalibrate. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, dead vision now becomes alive again. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Dry ground, all of a sudden, it starts to sprout a little bit of seed. Mm-hmm. And if you understand anything, especially in the Old Testament and the people of God, the Jewish religion and faith there's the year of Jubilee. There's every seventh year that the land rests from being plowed and sowed. And so there's this constant thing that as a people, they make sure that rest is a part of their success. And that was why I believe that God had us do that teaching and have us go through that period, which was difficult.
Yeah.
Because for me,
I'm sure
it's difficult to rest. I go on vacation, and after like an hour or two of resting, I'm like, okay,
I'm bored.
What can we do? I need to do something. I need to go. I need a schedule of where to go or what to do.
Yeah.
But I believe that God revived me, revived my marriage, revived our church.
Yeah.
And what I heard afterwards was, Pastor, man, that was great. I really needed that. And they wouldn't tell you, because sometimes folks, they want to perform to your level of expectation. And you can sometimes have unfair expectations that you want them to meet.
Wow.
And that rest for our family and for them was one of the best things that we've done. And I believe that God is going to allow us to do it over and over again.
Yeah.
Just have moments. It won't always be an entire month, but this year it is going to be August again. But I believe that in our life, we should have constant and regular and frequent moments of just resetting and resting.
That's powerful. That is really, really powerful. You and I both know from a musician's point of view that when you're looking at music, especially if it's written out, you have all the notes, you have the time signature, you've got all of that stuff on the page, but written in there are these little rests and little pauses. And each of them has a different length of time, or so many beats or so many measures. And one of the things I used to get in trouble for was I listened very well with my ear.
Okay.
And the teacher would play the piece, and I would memorize what she played by ear. And then I went back and just regurgitated it.
Okay.
As if it was on a pattern. But she knew that I wasn't reading the music, because she said, you missed the rest. You missed the pauses. And it's all a part of the music. And I think that life is very much like music, so we have to play the pauses. We have to play the pauses. That's powerful. So just from your perspective, as a pastor, as a leader, what would you say are some of the dangers for not doing this?
Well, I mean, burnout, that's one. The stats are horrible. It's horrifying.
Yeah.
That when I learn about, people who are living for God, as I would say, that I believe that they are unhealthy. Their family life oftentimes is jacked up because they're not spending any time with their spouse and their children. And essentially they're serving the world, but they're hurting their family.
Wow.
I believe that, from health-wise, from whether it's just unhealthy sleeping habits, constantly being worried about this and worried about that, you become less effective because you are on this constant cycle of going, and you don't have those necessary moments to revive, to enjoy life. Yeah, listen, can I tell you something?
Yeah.
Your life is supposed to be enjoyed now. As much as we're looking towards glory in heaven, God has given us this earth to enjoy now. And oftentimes when you're working, you're not really enjoying it. You're working, you're sweating and so forth. But God said on the seventh day, he stopped working. And what did he do? He rested. This is good. Look at all this. Wow. I could keep going because I'm God. Yeah, I could make 1 million more species of animals, but you know what? Wow, this is good.
Yeah.
Listen, so we could have another more revival service. We could have more rehearsals. We could keep on going and keep on, quote unquote, perfecting. And that term perfecting, I think, is kind of misleading because it gets you to a place where you think you can be God.
Wow.
Yet God even himself said, you know what? This is actually good enough.
Yeah.
Let me rest and enjoy it. And so I want people to live healthy. And I believe living healthy, especially in ministry, you've got to take time to rest. You know, for those that are leading ministries, your people are relying upon you not to be in the pulpit every Sunday, but to actually have times where you rest from being in the pulpit. So, and especially as leaders, we can't just ask folks to do this. We need to model this for them,
Right.
because our life depends upon it. Their life depends upon it. And I think that we often feel like, well, we're doing the work of God, and God is, and yes, you know, we should have all night prayer for 7 weeks straight. Bro, come on, man. You got to sleep, all right? You got to rest. Because if you're constantly doing the work of God and not being restored, you know, what does the word say? He restoreth my soul.
Yeah.
The only time you can be restored is when you're what? At rest. And so I really believe that the danger for us, and I'm going to group myself in this, is if you don't take time out to rest, if you don't take time out to reset, you're shortening your lifespan here on this earth.
Yeah.
You are limiting the health of your ministry. You can only perform on your gifting so far.
Yeah.
Right? It can take you to a level, and that's great. But if you want something to be sustained, you need to make sure you take time to rest. And let's just do what God did.
Yeah.
God created, and he said, you know what? It's good. He could have kept on going. He could have said, you know what? Let's have another revival service.
Yeah.
But no, he said, you know, I've created X amount of million number of species. I think this is good. Let's take a moment to look back and celebrate what has happened.
And enjoy it.
Enjoy it. Put my feet up, you know, turn on the telly if that's what you like to do. But you don't have to be in church 7 days a week to really be following what I believe God is designing for your life. Sometimes I think it's excessive.
Amen to that. Well, I really love again, I'll say it again, I love how God is leading you with your congregation, and I believe that this is powerful. And I think if we all take time to rest and reset, I believe that we'll be in a much better position to fulfill the will of God for
Absolutely.
our lives. We avoid things like burnout and all those things that can happen in ministries. That's wonderful. I mean, I want to share with the people how they can get more of your ministry, and where can they find you?
Well, if you're in Brooklyn, I mean, you can find us in Brooklyn, but you know, we don't consider ourselves just a local ministry. We have folks that they call this ministry their home, and they may be connecting via our online church. So that is one thing, and you can get more details at the website that Selwyn is going to give to you. Also, I mean, I'm trying every week to write a blog post, every week and every 2 weeks. So you can do that at hestonw.com, and that's just my thoughts on life, my perspective. So I invite you to read and share it, and if it's a blessing to you, then great. Yeah, I guess those are a couple places: Twitter, Instagram. Just look me up wherever.
Are your services streaming online too?
Yeah, our services. We and I'm not even going to use the term streaming, because I think that is putting it as like it's a secondary thing.
Broadcast.
Yeah, there you go. I love that. I'm going to use that. You can be part of our online community by going to our website. And that's purposelifechurch.com. And our main service are broadcast. Thank you for that.
That's right.
And we also do other things that you can follow up with. Some of our Bible teaching. We have that engagement on Tuesdays. And everyone is doing this, but we have our Morning Glory prayer line where people can call in and share what God is doing and make prayer requests. So we feel that wherever you have a connection, you can connect with us. As well as connect with God.
Folks, this is great. We've had a chance to connect with a pastor, and he's really shared his heart and what God has laid on him and his congregation to do. We hope that you guys can incorporate it into your lives as the Lord leads you to do so.
Yeah.
I want you to hit the share button right below, and I want you to share this conversation with your friends, your family members, your pastors. Share it with them. And it's a great way to continue the dialogue, continue the conversation, because at the end of the day, we all want to be sharp in doing what the word of the Lord tells us to do.
Yeah.
And thank you for tuning in to today's show, Conversations with Selwyn. We'll see you next time.
All right. Bless you.
Can you